Narayan, Narayan. So after a long gap, we are starting our classes, online classes. Anyway, so in today being Sunday, is it Sunday? Let me confirm. Yeah, it is Sunday. Today being Sunday, we are no audio. Ayyo. Iga Om. Can you hear me now? No, not at all. Are you able to hear? Can you hear me? Sound, or even now it is blocked? Yes. Okay. Somebody says he can hear, so there is no problem on my side. Somewhere must be there in the other side. So he is able to hear. Yes. Yeah. Somebody says yes, he is able to hear. So I'll continue. Yes, I can continue. Oh, somebody is not able to hear again. Again somebody says. Okay. I think there is a problem the other side, because or shall I once again check? Just then give me time, I'll check. Okay. Let me check. Abba. No, my sound is not off. It is working. My sound is working. So some of them are able to hear, some of them are unable to hear. Anyway, I am recording my YouTube also. My YouTube also recording. Those who cannot hear can hear later. Yeah, can hear later on YouTube. Now let me continue. Okay, Gita. In Gita, in the 5th chapter we were discussing in the 16th previous shloka. Today we have to cover the 17th shloka. In the previous shloka, Jnanena tu tadajnanam yesham nashitam atmana. Their ignorance of whom was destroyed by knowledge. The ignorance of those people whose ignorance is destroyed by knowledge, their knowledge is very clean. Tesham aditya vadjnanam. Their jnanam shines continuously. Aditya, like the sun. Just as the sun's light spontaneously and uninterrupted. See, the light of the sun spontaneously shines, uninterrupted and without fluctuations. Compare with the lamp. A small flame is not so uninterrupted, because if the wind comes, it shakes, the flame shakes. Sometimes the oil becomes less, it again goes down. I mean, it becomes dim. Then you pour little more oil, it becomes bright. So the light of a flame becomes bright and dim, and with wind it fluctuates, it waves. Okay, it waves like wind with the wind. But whereas the sun is continuously same, no dimming and brightening. No, it doesn't become dim, doesn't become bright. It remains all the time same. And that too, it doesn't depend upon any oil. It is natural, like the radium and such others. Naturally they emit their light. Similarly, anyway, there may be some difference of opinion based upon science, we are taking a simple example. So Atma's Chaitanyam is continuous. Why does he have to say? Because a Jiva's awareness, Jiva's consciousness is not so continuous. Jiva's consciousness keeps fluctuating, isn't it? In waking state, he has the knowledge, he has the awareness. In dream, less awareness. In deep sleep, all his awareness gets submerged. You go to sleep. Awareness means the mind, the consciousness of the mind. Because as a Jiva, his consciousness depends upon mind. So if the mind is bright, you get a bright light. If the mind is disturbed, your consciousness is disturbed. Disturbed means it becomes a dim, dull. It becomes dull. If sense organs, because Jiva's consciousness depends upon the sense organs and mind and body. Body should be healthy. The brain should be working well. Sense organs are able to perceive. And the mind is also active and alert, not sleepy and disturbed. Okay. So the consciousness of Jiva, ordinary Jiva, depends upon sense organs, mind and body. That means the health of the body, condition of the body, condition of sense organs and condition of mind. But one who understands that I am not the body, sense organs and mind, he understands I am the Sakshi witnessing of entire state including my body, mind and sense organs. One who understands himself to be that Sakshi, that consciousness of the Sakshi doesn't fluctuate, doesn't waver, doesn't fluctuate. It is not dependent on other factors. It is self-shining, continuously shining, spontaneously shining, and uniformly shining without any fluctuations. See the difference. That's why the shloka said, Jnanena tu tadajnanam. Ajnanam means adhyasa, taking body, mind and sense organs as yourself. When you identify with the body, mind and sense organs, there is consciousness. There is no person there is no person who is without consciousness, because all living beings have consciousness. Sentient beings, all sentient beings have consciousness. That consciousness, but that the consciousness depends upon condition of the body, sense organs and mind. That's why his consciousness is not spontaneous, natural, uniform and independent. And one who knows himself, yeah, you can be. Oh. So, Jnanena tu tadajnanam yesham nashitam atmana. In that previous shloka. When the ajnanam is destroyed, that means his taking body, mind and sense organs, because of identification with the body, mind and sense organs, his consciousness becomes blurred, isn't it? Therefore, a person who knows the truth, who discovers his real nature of the Atman, a person who discovers the real nature of the Atman, which is free from being influenced by body, mind and sense. See, it is simple like this. Our consciousness should not depend upon the external factors like the body, mind and sense organs. It should not depend, it should not be influenced by body, mind and sense organ. This is what Jnanam means. Jnanam means my consciousness doesn't depend upon doesn't get influenced by body, mind and sense organs. Here what we find at the moment is, we are seeing the consciousness through the mind, through sense organs, through body. Therefore, that consciousness is suffering from all its deficiencies, all its weaknesses, problems, everything. It is not uniform, it is not spontaneous, it is continuously influenced by other factors. Therefore, consciousness is not spontaneous, uniform and independent. That's the reason. So in this 16th shloka, a person who understands means what? How to understand? Only you have to, because the problem is only wrongly identifying. Wrongly identifying means looking at the consciousness through these unnecessary elements, alien elements of body, mind and sense organs. So here we separate the body from the consciousness and see consciousness as independent of the body, independent of sense organs, independent of mind. Those who understand their consciousness as independent of them, his consciousness, tesham jnanam. See, the shloka says, yesham atmanah ajnanam jnanena nashitam. Whose ajnanam is destroyed by the jnanam, by right understanding of oneself as pure consciousness, as pure sakshi. And such people's jnanam, their jnanam means their consciousness, is always shines like the sun. Shines like the sun. Before that, it was not shining like the sun, it was shining like a small lamp. Now it shines like a adityam. Means it shines independently, purely, because it is unaffected. The factors which were influencing, the factors which was covering up, which were covering up the Atma or the Sakshi, are set aside. Means they were interfering. Why are they interfering? Because we are allowing them to interfere. See, this is a very interesting illustration for it. Some people get easily disturbed by others' criticism. Some people are bold enough, they just don't take others' criticism seriously and they maintain their self-confidence. See, this difference you see. Person to person this varies, but some people are really bold, highly self-confident people. See, this is a very, very good illustration to help us to understand here. The person who lacks in confidence, at every stage, his actions, his thoughts, his views, every time somebody criticizes, he is looking for others' approval, others' help. When I think of some idea, am I correct or not? Somebody is criticizing, probably I may be wrong. So immediately he gets shaken. By others' criticism, he gets shaken. So whatever view he holds, whatever opinion, whatever understanding he gathers, he always looks for others' approval, others' help. But a confident person, an objective thinker, he is independently capable of evaluating his own understanding. He is impartially, independently and objectively capable of evaluating. He develops an opinion, forms an opinion, at the same time checks, rechecks. Am I correct? But he is a confident person. Even if others criticize, he verifies. He just doesn't get carried away by others' criticism, but listens to the criticism patiently and tries to check whether do I have those defects which he is accusing me of. These defects of which he is accusing me, do I have those defects? Let me check for myself. Some people have confidence before, while checking again they yield to it, they get shaken again. Some people, after finding the defect, get shaken. There are really rare people, neither before nor at this time of checking, nor after finding the defects also they remain bold. See how confident some people are. Even after finding the defect, still they are confident. Of course, that should not be, a confidence is different from arrogance. Some people, they say whatever I say is wrong. That is another extreme. I'm not talking of those people who, even if they are wrong, they always defend. Even if they are really wrong also, they boldly defend. Now that is an overconfidence. That's not confidence. That's not a healthy level of confidence. Healthy range. He has crossed the healthy range of confidence. Okay. Nor do I mean that if you suppose you find a defect really, when somebody accuses you, when you check yourself, when you introspect, you find a defect. What are you supposed to do? You get shaken? You feel guilty? Or you feel inferior and guilty? No. Even if you find the defect in you, you humbly admit it and try to correct it. In humbly admitting also, don't allow your inferiority complex, your guilt to enter. In humbly admitting, you are objectively admit. Here the two ways. One is emotionally, if you are influenced, even in admitting your defect, it should not create a guilt. A healthy admitting is different from feeling guilty. Okay? Healthy admitting is one thing. When you admit, healthy admitting means you retain the confidence and admit. In spite of admitting, you have a confidence. Confidently you admit and humbly you admit. Not that you defend whatever it is, still you defend. That is another extreme. I am not talking of that extreme side. You remain humble, you admit the defect, but without losing your confidence. How is that possible? That is a psychology. I don't have to talk of that, because we are talking Vedanta. That's a psychology. We can tell, but I think most of them, I don't have to say that. That is the level of mind we are talking. I am taking this as an example only to understand the Atma. Okay? I am taking this as an example, this confidence at an individual level, at the level of Antakarana, at the level of mind. Okay? So you can maintain the confidence, not by feeling arrogant that yes, I can be wrong, so what? It is not that way. I can be wrong, anybody can be wrong. So by generalizing everybody, that means it is my right to be wrong. Nobody should point out. Even if I am wrong, still people. So that is another extreme. We are not talking of that. By understanding a universal human nature, that nobody is perfect being, and if you go wrong also, nothing wrong as long as you have got a human faculties of the mind, sense organs and intellect. So what we can do is be open-minded, accept yourself and proceed without feeling guilty. This is a healthy way. So this defect doesn't pertain to me alone. It is natural, it is a universal. But that doesn't mean that, since it is universal, I can defend myself. No, not in that way. So I need not be humble. You can't say that. Because even if it is universal, still I remain humble. I admit, because correcting the mistake and trying to be free from the defect as much as possible is an ideal. Keeping that ideal. So even if it is a universal mistake, still that mistake hurts the fact. If the mistake hurts others, harms others unconsciously, it may be unintentionally. Therefore, you admit that universal mistake. You need not feel personally guilty for it. You need not feel personally guilty for it, but you understand the universal limitation of the human nature. So be humbly admit that universal limitations. So without feeling guilty, you remain humble and admit. See, you remain humble, humbly you admit it without feeling personally guilty, nor personally defending also. Neither personally defending nor personally offending, feeling offended. Neither you feel offended, nor you feel like defensive, nor you feel defensive about it. You admit it, smile at it, but at the same time try to correct it, humbly admit it, try to correct, try to improve yourself. So that confidence is different. Okay? Anyway, it's a psychological level. We leave it. It's an example only. Just as a person doesn't get shaken. A confident person doesn't get shaken. Similarly here, a person, as long as he remains a jiva means as long as his identification with the body, sense organs and mind remains, his consciousness will not be pure, continuous and independent. His consciousness continuously gets influenced by body, mind and sense, because body, mind and sense organs are the medium, are the instruments, we use them. Therefore, the bodily health, how the brain is sharp and etc., bright and sharp and healthy, that affects your. If the brain is healthy, you also feel your consciousness is bright. Otherwise, your consciousness becomes dull. Even sense organs, even mind, intellect, health and all, and social events, external events also, they disturb you. Therefore, your consciousness cannot be pure, independent and uniform. But an enlightened man, one who understands Atma as free from, independent of body, mind and sense organs, his consciousness is uniform, independent, unfluttering, uninfluenced, not fluctuating, not fluttering. Okay? It remains a natural, choiceless consciousness, spontaneous consciousness, uniform consciousness, uninfluenced, uninfluenceable, unaffected by the conditions of the body, mind and soul. He knows there are two levels. The consciousness that is functioning through mind naturally gets influenced. He understands there are two levels of consciousness. One consciousness is reflected in the mind, that will be naturally influenced by the condition of mind, but other pure conscious, which is the nature of Atma, which is uninfluenced. Like in the example, illustration, you see your own face and the reflected in the medium of mirror. On the surface of the mirror, you see your face is reflected. If the mirror has certain defects, you will see your reflection reflection also suffers from those defects. You see them, you see your face as some color or a broken face, there is a scratch on it or a broken face, something you see. But still, if you understand that your real face is unaffected by it, still you can see and enjoy it. Oh, you just take it as a fun. What appears is different. What I am is different. Similarly, once he understands that Atma or the consciousness of the Atma, and both are same. So Atma is independent of these. Whatever it appears through the sense organs, he takes them lightly, he doesn't get influenced. It doesn't get disturbed because his real Atma is unaffected by it, untouched by what appears through mind and sense organs. Okay. This is the understanding. He says, Adityavat jnanam prakashayati tatpara. His jnanam prakashayati shines like Aditya, like the sun. In the meaning, the what is it that is compared here? What is it that is compared in the nature of sun? From the nature of sun, what aspect is taken here? Sun is spontaneously shining, no fluctuations, uniformly same and independent. See, these are the three factors are implied here in the illustration. So this 16th shloka we have already covered. So this small point I told. So we'll proceed with the next shloka. Okay, 17th. Yat param jnanam prakashitam. This jnanam. Now he is talking in this shloka a jnani state. Jnani state in contrast with ajnani. Jnani state, he speaks in contrast with ajnani. That means whatever the defects in the ajnani found, jnani becomes free from them. So jnani becomes free from those few defects which ajnani is suffering from. So he shows the contrast. So this description of a jnani has Two implications. One is Jnani is like this. Second is whatever is the state of Jnani becomes the sadhana for sadhaka. Whatever is the spontaneous nature, whatever is the spontaneous nature of Jnani becomes a sadhana for the sadhaka, constitutes a sadhana for sadhaka. Therefore, in the 17th shloka of the 5th chapter of Gita, tad buddhayas tadatmanah tannishthas tatparayanaah gacchantya punaravrittim jnana nirdhuta kalmashaah. Tad buddhayah tadatmanah tannishthah tatparayanaah. Then 5th point is jnana nirdhuta kalmasha. 5 points he mentions here. Tad buddhayah, let us explain one by one. Tad buddhayah. So, Jnani's buddhi and sadhaka also should follow that. Jnani's buddhi, where is it? Tad buddhayah. Jnani's buddhi becomes one with Atma. Tad buddhi. See, is a beautiful. Jnani's buddhi becomes, buddhi means intellect. Jnani's mind or intellect doesn't stand separate from Atma consciousness, consciousness of the Atman. For Jnani, his mind becomes one with Jnanam. Jnanam and mind are not two things for him. In fact, everybody's mind is in its original nature, in its essential nature is consciousness. So the consciousness seen in a given condition is called mind. It's like water seen in a given condition is called a wave. Water seen in a given vessel assumes a particular form. Water appearing in a given vessel appears in that particular form. But the form, although it is appearing in water, still it is not touching the water. It is still extraneous to it. Even when water appears in a given shape, on account of the container, on account of the vessel in which it is poured, although water appears in a particular shape, the water itself doesn't have the shape, the form of it, because the form appears to us, doesn't appear to the water. Water itself is free from the shape, although it appears to us. Okay. Similarly, water in a given condition appears as a particular form. But the condition doesn't condition the water. See, the condition doesn't condition the water. The condition conditions our view only. Our view is conditioned by that particular vessel or a context. The context or a vessel conditions our view. Therefore, we see the water in a particular form. Similarly, consciousness seen through the body, seen through the mind, seen through the sense organs looks like individual. Consciousness looks like individualized consciousness. Okay? Individualized consciousness, limited consciousness, suffering from, it is affected by the conditions of the body, mind. Okay. Somebody is again and again trying. Okay. Consciousness is, our consciousness is not uniform, is not independent, is not self-shining, because we are continuously affected by conditions of the body. If the brain is bright, your awareness is, your consciousness is bright. Otherwise, you are unhealthy, you don't feel natural. Your sense organs also bring the knowledge from outside world, external world. And the condition of the mind, emotional state of the mind, thoughts and ideas, they influence the consciousness. You don't feel your consciousness is natural, spontaneous, uniform and independent. Our consciousness is always influenced by mind, condition of the mind, state of mind and intellect, sense organs, body and all. Therefore, Jnani's consciousness, the enlightened person's consciousness is independent. As I told you too, just as our face is one and reflected face in the mirror. In spite of that reflected face, you understand your face is independent of it. The reflected face suffers from all good and bad qualities of the mirror, because whatever is the nature of mirror, so will be the reflection. If the reflection is in a bucket of water, if the water is shaking, your reflection will be shaking. If the water has got little color, your face also will have a little color, isn't it? So the reflected face will have all the qualities of water, the medium in which it reflects. Though in spite of seeing your face is shaking, you understand you are not shaking. Similarly here, this is an illustration. Similarly here, in spite of what you feel in the mind, at the level of mind, at the level of intellect, at the level of body and sense organs, the consciousness seen through body, mind and sense organs will be shaking, will not be uniform. Yet you understand you are not that. The consciousness that appears through mind and sense organs is not you. Your real you is independent of. You understand you are independent of mind. You means consciousness. Your consciousness is independent of mind, independent of sense organs, in spite of what it appears through mind and sense organs. Whatever it appears, still you know you are independent. This is the understanding. Therefore here, tad buddhayah, this shloka, as I told you, contains 5 words, 5 expressions. Each word has got something to convey. Now tad buddhayah. So tad buddhayah. So jnani is like this, whose buddhi is one with Atma, one with consciousness. Tad buddhayah. So the jnani, the enlightened persons, his buddhi becomes one with consciousness, unlike an ignorant man's buddhi. Unlike an ignorant man's buddhi, which fluctuates, shakes, it gets distorted. It is not uniform, it is not independent, it is not pure, it is not spontaneous. It is dependent, it keeps fluctuating, it gets colored, influenced, because it's not independent, and it's not uniform. Nor it is dependent also. Fluctuating and dependent. So this is the difference. So tad buddhayah. We see our buddhi means knowledge here. Buddhi means not intellect. Here the buddhi is consciousness. His consciousness is not limited, fluctuating, changing, influenced. His consciousness is one with the Atma, exactly like the Atma. It is one with it. It's like, let us say, water appears in a particular shape when you poured in a vessel. You remove the vessel, what happens? Water goes back to its natural state. The shape in which it appeared when poured in a vessel, it is understood. The same water is understood as independent of the shape. It becomes independent of that shape. Similarly here, I understand my consciousness as independent of the body. It's not limited to the body. It's not influenced by the body. It's not influenced by mind and sense organ. Now I feel my consciousness is continuously influenced by mind and sense organ, because I see consciousness only as a reflected alone. I am not seeing the pure essential consciousness, but the continuously I live at the level of reflected stage alone. I am living continuously at the reflected state alone. It's like you are looking at your face continuously in the medium of mirror alone. Is a reflected face alone you see. You get to see only reflected face. Directly you can't see your own face. Yet you understand that your face is independent of what the mirror shows. Mirror may have its own defects. So the reflection will be sharing the defects of the mirror. The reflected face, the reflection shares, partakes the defects of mirror. Here you understand. You shake your When you see the defect, when you look at the mirror, you see some defect. You see, is the defect in the mirror or on me? When you get a doubt, you try to move like this. Oh, once you move like this, the defect, instead of here, it comes to here, or it goes here, or it goes away from the face onto your body, onto your chest. Oh, then you understand. Oh, these defects belong to the mirror, not to me. See, by moving here and there, you understand. Oh, that defects belongs to mirror, not to me. See, this is the way we understand. Okay. Otherwise, if suppose you move your face like this, in spite of moving, you see the same spot is sticking to your face, then you understand it doesn't belong to the mirror, it belongs to my face. Okay. When you move your face like this, if the defect which you see on your face continuously remains at the same spot, in spite of your moving, when you move, it doesn't move away from your face. It remains on the face alone continuously. Then you understand, oh, it belongs to my face, not to the mirror. Okay? See how it gets mixed up. The defect which I am seeing, the black spot which I am seeing on my face, does it belong to my face or doesn't belong to the mirror? How do you understand this? Yeah? How do you understand? There is a testing. Okay, there is an examination. You examine, you test it, you just move. You understand. Supposing even in spite of moving also you can't recognize, then what will you do? You look at other mirror. Okay, you leave this mirror and go to another mirror. Then another mirror. Oh, then you understand. It was mirror's defect, not mine. Okay, see, these are all different ways of knowing it. Similarly, we also tries to see. First we see with the body. Move the body. Am I always like this? Is my consciousness, the consciousness which is seen through the body, which is seen through sense organs, which is seen through mind, am I always like this? I try to observe myself. You look at yourself through the dream state. When you are in dream state, you are free from the waking body, waking mind, waking sense organs. Oh, whatever defects you experienced when you were in waking state, all those experiences, all those limitations, do they really belong to me or to my mind and not to me? How do you know? You have to test. You have to make a testing. You look at yourself in the dream state. You as consciousness are the same, unbroken. You continue as consciousness in dream. The same consciousness which was witnessing the waking state, the same consciousness continues, unchanged. But there are certain other elements pertaining to waking state, like the body, mind and sense organs, they go away. I shake them off. I de-identify with my waking body, waking mind and waking sense organs. I de-identify with them. Then I am no more the waking individual. I am a waking individual is the Karta, Bhokta, Jnata. Karta, Bhokta, Jnata, this is a waking individuality. So my self-image, self-opinion is not based upon waking, because once the waking body, mind and sense organs are removed, my waking self-image, my waking individuality also goes away. I remain just consciousness. What aspect of me continues to flow into a dream state? See, discriminate between this. What aspect of me remains, continues into dream, and what aspect of me gets dropped off when the waking state goes away. When I give up waking state, when I give up my waking state, what all in me goes away and what remains? This you have to distinguish. This is the Viveka. This is the Tattva Vichara. This is the Viveka. This is the Tattva Vichara we have to do. What aspect of me remains untouched and continues into dream? And what aspect of me goes away along with the waking state? When the waking state goes away, it also goes away. And still something in me remains, the core of me, the essential me remains. No self-opinion, no self-image. You have no self-image, because the self-image pertains to my waking state. That I am an individual, I am so and so. The opinion, the image, the thought of you, I am. In that thing that I am, the thought of I, the notion of I, aham buddhi, and your self-image, all that pertains to waking state. Because based upon the waking body, based upon the waking society, waking life, waking family, you formed an opinion, you formed an individuality. All that pertains to waking state alone. When you give up waking state, all this individuality which appeared in me in the wake of waking state, in the context of waking state, on account of waking state. See, a certain personality in me which appeared in me on account of waking state. That goes away when I give up my waking state. Still I continue. I give up my waking state, still I continue to exist. That I is not an individual I. It is an underlying consciousness. Okay? Just an awareness. Awareness. Just awareness remains untouched. Individuality goes away. Your self-opinion, self-image, I am such and such a person, I am so and so, I am like this, I am like this, I am not like this. Whatever image, whatever opinion, whatever thought you have about you as an individual, the entire individuality is set aside, is dropped off, is rejected, is removed from you, or shaken off, let us say. You shake off all your individuality, and still you remain as a non-individual. That is consciousness. The same consciousness forms the bottom, forms the witness of the dream state. The same consciousness which has witnessed the waking, the same consciousness witnesses the dream also. Okay? The consciousness remains the same. Then what aspect of me goes away? What aspect of me remains? This discrimination is called viveka. This is called vichara. Okay? This atmanatma vichara. The inquiry. Inquiry means examination, means self-observation. Tattva vichara means what? People think vichara means a lot of thinking. Not lot of thinking, observation. Okay? What does tattva vichara mean? Tattva vichara means examination of the truth, observation of the truth. Tattva vichara means observation, examination, so as to discover the fact as it is. You come to see whatever is as it is. So this self-observation or self-examination is called tattva vichara, atma vichara, whatever you say. Okay. Vichara doesn't mean lot of thinking, accumulating ideas and repeating them. It's not logical thinking. It's not a logically compiling ideas and relationships. It is transcending all the relationships. It is just an observation. When you observe anything, let us take anything, when you observe, what happens? When you observe, you come to discover a new thing which you could not see in your superficial glance. In superficial quick glance, in a superficial glance, a quick glance, you see something roughly, broadly something. You don't see certain nuances of it. Okay? In your quick glance, you just have an outside shape. But patiently when you watch, intently when you watch, patiently, intently, without any prejudice, without any carrying in your mind, patiently watch. Again and again watch. While watching, patiently watch. Allow the fact to appear on its own. Don't imagine. Don't jump to imagination. Just leave your mind open, completely open. Just let it be open. Let the fact appear on its own. Okay? You face the fact and allow the fact to appear. Okay? You just pay attention to the fact. You pay attention to it and allow the fact to appear on its own. Allow it. Allow it to appear. Don't imagine. See, this is tattva vichara. Okay? in any observation. In fact, observation means is this. Generally in observation, we already imagine something. Before you see what you are going to see, you already keep in your mind and trying to see. This is called preconceived idea. You conceive some idea, some imagination. You keep some imagination, some idea in your mind and try to look at it. So the idea you have in your mind interferes in it, doesn't it? It does interfere. The idea, the imagination which you have conceived beforehand, preconceived idea, interferes. Now the real observation, real tattva vichara is set aside all your imaginations. Don't allow them to interfere. Keep your mind fresh, like a baby's mind. See, baby's mind is fresh. It doesn't carry any prejudices. It just looks at any new person comes. It just looks at a new person. You see the baby? Just looks at a person freshly. It doesn't carry any opinion because it doesn't have a previous experience. So previous opinions, ideas, prejudices, nothing baby has. Similarly, our mind should be like a baby, a fresh mind. Okay? Look at it. Whatever way it is, let it appear. Don't carry any opinion. Just to face it. Simply, openly, gently, patiently watch. No hurry, no haste, no prejudice, no worry. Worry also should not be there. Just you require a good heart, a simple heart, an open heart, with a simple love, not a prejudiced love. Okay? There is a difference between simple love and prejudiced love. Attachment love. Prejudiced love is an attachment. A simple love is a selfless love, unprejudiced love. Okay? So with that mind, with such a heart, you just pay attention and allow the fact to appear on its own. Okay? Just pay attention to the fact and allow it to appear. Don't imagine, don't interfere with your mind and imaginations and thoughts. So similarly, tad buddhayaha. Jnani is the one whose mind has become free from all other opinions, ideas, judgments. The mind has lost its mind, state of mind, becomes one with consciousness. Therefore, tad buddhayaha. Jnani's mind becomes that jnani, jnana mind, chaitanya alone. Jnani's intellect becomes one with consciousness. So our mind is seeing the world. Our buddhi is seeing the prapancha buddhi. Jnani has got Brahma buddhi, doesn't have prapancha buddhi. Okay. We have a prapancha buddhi. Our mind always sees some or other object, limited by time and space, subject and object duality. We have a notion of I, notion of the world, notion of time, notion of place, notion of relationship, notion of object. So we have got various notions, various ideas. All these ideas present to us how the world is. Okay, these ideas show us only the world, but Jnani's mind is, it doesn't retain any thought of the world, thought of the body, thought of the mind, thought of the sense organs. All that he makes them into one Brahman thought. Tad buddhayaha. So his thought is one with Paramatma. One with Paramatma means he shakes off all other thoughts. So all the thoughts are collected into one grand thought. So all other thoughts merge into one grand thought. It's like smaller circle merges into a larger circle. That larger circle merges into a still larger circle. You can understand these things with this illustration. You go to a small lake. Generally in childhood we would play in our villages. You go to the lake. This is a very interesting game. We would play like that. Take a small stone pebble, stand on the lake, shore of the lake, on the bank of the lake. You stand on the shore of the lake and throw a pebble into the water. Okay? We would try to throw particularly on the center of the water. On the center of the lake you try to throw. Once you throw a pebble, a small ripple starts, a round ripple. Have you seen? A round ripple. The wave which is produced keeps on expanding. See how it keeps on expanding, expanding. See, the circle becomes wider, wider, wider until it reaches the shore. Okay, once it reaches the shore, what happened? It disappears. It was a good game. We would wonder and keep on playing with this. Okay, the wave that appeared with the pebble falling on the water, exactly on the spot a small wave arises, a round wave, a circular wave. That wave keeps on expanding, expanding. Ultimately, what happens to it? As children, we would not understand. Now, as with Vedanta, I understand somewhat differently. As children, we would see the wave disappears into the shore, earth. I would think that it goes and disappears into the earth. That's how the children understand. But now I see the wave which arose at a particular spot, it keeps on expanding, expanding. Ultimately, it swallows the entire lake, entire body of water. Lake means that body of water. It swallows the entire body of water. Therefore, the wave becomes as big as the lake only. Once the wave and the lake become one, you cease to see the wave. I don't know whether you are able to imagine. I think most of you must have seen this lake and this thing. So those who have seen it is easy to understand. So the wave which expands, how long? How big it expands? It expands, becomes one with the lake. When the wave and the lake become one, you don't see wave and lake are two things. Similarly, Jnani's buddhi. Now we have a thought of a book, thought of a table, thought of a wall, thought of a tree, thought of a human being. These are various thoughts we have. But all these thoughts reduce into one thought and let that one thought expand, 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 keeps on expanding. It becomes one with your sakshi, one with your consciousness. Okay, then at that stage, you don't see your thought and consciousness are not two. They become one. This is called enlightenment. Here he says, Tad Buddhayaha. Okay, Tad Buddhayaha. Now the time is up, 12:05. Okay, I'm supposed to close by 12 o'clock. So, but the topic had to go was in the middle, so I did it. Tad Buddhayaha we have explained. Tad Atmanaha we shall explain in the next class. So, Gita will come. Gita class will come only next Sunday. Other classes we will start anyway tomorrow. Tomorrow being Monday we will not have. So Tuesday we will start again Vedanta Paribhasha and Sugama. So since my cell phone, my chargers, everything have come, which got burnt in the last 1 week or 10 days ago. All my chargers, everything, because there was some fluctuation, they got burnt now. Now they are okay. Okay, we'll continue our classes. Tomorrow we take holiday and Tuesday onwards we'll continue. Okay, Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.